Gender equity and gender equality in the Indian workplace. What do these terms mean and what is the difference between them? Gender equality is offering equal opportunities and getting outcomes from men, women, and gender diverse groups. Gender equity, on the other hand, is the process to achieve gender equality. While equality ensures that theoretically each person is given equal opportunities, equity recognizes that due to cultural and historical reasons, women have not had the same start as men. We know that investing in gender equity leads to sustainable economic development. More importantly, how can you ignore the needs of 50% of the population? It's about being fair. It's about agreeing that support needs to be provided to the group that needs it the most. Looking at the World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Index 2020, the top 5 highlights for India are: India slips 28 places and is currently ranked at 140 out of 156 nations. Share of women in professional and technical fields has decreased. Percentage of women in labor force participation has gone down. Only 8.9% of firms in India are led by women leaders. Estimated income earned by an Indian woman is 1/5 of that of the men. Despite all this, 96% parity has been achieved in primary, secondary, and tertiary education. However, gender gap persists when it comes to literacy. 34% of Indian women are illiterate compared to only 17% men. We know that educating a woman is vital for economic development. An educated woman uplifts her life. An educated woman displays a direct connect with population control because she will have fewer children. An educated woman reduces the chance of her child dying before the age of 5. Also, she promises a bright future for the country because women who are educated ensure that their children are also educated. While the Constitution promises equal rights to every citizen, the ground reality in our country is very different. We are going to look at gender equity measures in 3 parts. Part 1, the 14 years of school life. Part 2, the few yet extremely impactful years of college life. And part 3, the 3 or 4 decades that we spent in the workplace. And we are going to analyze all this to see the interplay of our societal biases, infrastructure support, and of course, our cultural mindset, which has been framed over generations. So let's start with school. The Right to Education Act of 2009 ensures free education up to the age of 14. And numbers show that we are doing extremely well in primary school. It's only after the age of puberty, roughly around 11 to 12 years of age, that the dropout number starts climbing drastically for girls. The most common reasons given are: 1, inadequate school facilities. Roughly 23 million girls drop out of school every year due to inadequate facilities related to menstrual hygiene. Secondly, there's scarcity of lady teachers, especially in the rural area. When you combine this with the fact that we have a mindset problem when it comes to co-education, this directly means very few schools for our girls. Also, financial difficulties leads parents to prioritize the son's education over the daughter's. And finally, lack of role models. It's very tough to convince these girls why they need to study more and how it is going to change their life, because they have no role models in their homes, in their schools, in their hometowns or villages. So how can we promote gender equity in schools? First of all, let's break gender stereotypes. Let's stop promoting the concept of men as macho, bread earners, women as maternal, and therefore good as caregivers. Secondly, let's bridge the confidence gap. There is adequate research to show that girls between the ages of 8 and 14 have 30% less confidence compared to boys in the same age group. This, despite the fact that girls outperform boys academically in the same age and stage. So, what is this gap due to? It's dwelling excessively on negative feelings about themselves, in their ability to take risks, and lowers their ability to try something new. This lack of confidence also makes them set unrealistically high targets for themselves, which leads to failure and, of course, is a start of another problem called perfectionism. At this stage, girls are low on self confidence and they frequently doubt their ability to succeed. By ensuring equal participation in schools, they can help bridge the confidence gap. Traditionally, boys are assigned roles like accounting, timekeeping, where girls are given opportunities in housekeeping like arranging furniture and making rangoli. Boys are given leadership roles which require public speaking, while girls are called shy and are never given enough opportunities to speak or even speak up. Secondly, curriculum needs to be made gender sensitive. Let's add inspiring stories about women leaders. Let's teach our boys how to spot discrimination in our history books, in our movies, in our theater, in our news channels, for example. Also, enhance the role of pedagogy in gender discrimination. Finally, let's bring gender socialization early in to this game. Don't make separate rows for boys and girls. Let them interact. This singular step is going to ensure healthy relationships in college as well as in the workplace. Finally, we need to provide support. If girls are weak in certain subjects, offer remedial classes in good time so that they don't fail. Because research has shown, and there's enough data to back it, that once they fail, they leave school permanently and never go back to education. Weakness in English is a huge bottleneck, and fluency in the subject adds to their confidence. Weakness in math shakes their self belief. However, fluency in the subject helps them feel more confident. So, let's bridge the confidence gap. Next stage is college. In theory, college campuses are intended to be level playing fields which will break stereotypes and societal barriers. In reality, there exist unique challenges when it comes to equity on campuses. The biggest challenge is poor gender ratios. Traditionally, law, management, STEM disciplines, even our haloed IITs suffer from huge gender imbalance. It's very interesting to note that this leads to a very high level of acceptance on the part of the girls to skewed power balance. Boys, being in the majority, remain insensitive to sexual innuendos and jokes. Girls, being in the minority, display huge level of tolerance for this behavior because otherwise they risk isolation and bullying. So they put up with barbs. The milder ones being boys need better jobs on campus because girls anyway are passing time till they settle down. Lack of healthy relationship between genders also leads to an overly sexualized campus and further isolates the female students. So, how do we promote equity on our college campuses? First of all, let's start with the faculty, whose role cannot be emphasized enough. Being big spheres of influence, students model their behavior and copy the behavior of the faculty. Secondly, let's challenge gender roles through conversations, societies, debate, theater, poetry. Conversations can focus on the strengths and the gaps in our society and work towards breaking stereotypes. Let's create conversations to bust common generalizations like men don't do housework, men control all economic assets because women lack financial literacy, men are bread earners, and women are lucky if they have a husband who can earn and support them. frank chats about sexual consent. No means no. Harassment will help young boys understand that safety of the girl child in your campus, in your country, is not a woman's issue, it's a men's issue. Let's involve the boys on campus to find answers on how society can offer physical safety to its women. Let's agree, student activism can bring huge change, and it has in different parts of the world. Finally, the workplace. There are several generalizations and stereotypes which affect the way women are treated in the workplace. Unconscious bias is everywhere. Firstly, men get promoted more frequently because they are more aggressive than women. Secondly, after a certain age, women will struggle with work life balance. So it's better they don't get promoted because they can't give 100% to leadership roles. Thirdly, women are too mild. They may not be able to put up with the pressure of leadership. And finally, young women have to put up with age discrimination. What's the point in investing in this girl? Because she will get pregnant and go away. On the other hand, a male leader is seen as constant, decisive, powerful, almost superhero like qualities. Women leaders, on the other hand, are seen as too weak, too mild, too sensitive. In reality, nothing is further from the truth. We have seen during the pandemic, countries which were led by women leaders outperformed those which were led by men leaders. Women leadership tends to be more inclusive, community driven, led by consensus rather by dictating the rules, as well as collaborating, where everybody feels that they are involved and participating and taking ownership. At Catalyst, an NGO I co founded, we did an impact study and tracked women engineers in the workplace who had graduated from our program and versus those which were not a part of our program. Our girls from lower income backgrounds performed 42% better than those who were not a part of the program. What was the competitive edge? Our program gives them the confidence and instills self belief, which directly impacted their performance at work. 94% of our students reported higher confidence levels due to better English speaking skills, which is critical for career growth in our country. While you can start by hiring more women, but the pipeline breaks down mid career. Women who opted for self employment, entrepreneurial journey cited three reasons: flexibility of working hours, lack of resources to support childcare, and of course, work life balance. To achieve greater diversity in the workplace, companies just need to ask two questions. Is our initial diversity pipeline breaking down somewhere in the process? If yes, where? And simply fix it. A few measures can help. One key element is providing employee support and benefits to women. Secondly, leaders can lead by example. A simple example: companies where leaders use family leave benefits. Otherwise, these women who use these benefits would feel it will come at the cost of future career development. Data clearly shows that companies with favorable gender ratios, there are more women at mid-level and a very strong pipeline for leadership positions. Progress has to be both top-down and bottom-up. Finally, media is a very powerful tool and it can play a very good role in breaking gender stereotypes. Advertisements show mothers cooking multiple dishes using exotic spices. I'm presuming it is after a full day in the office. Advertisements rarely show fathers cooking. In fact, our movies always show men in kitchen as a comedy scene. Urban men display cooking skills simply by brewing a cup of coffee for a good-looking neighbor who is visiting. Celebrate the concept of new fatherhood. Change the narrative on house husbands. Show healthy workplace relationship between genders. Culturally, we have great role models for brother sister, father daughter, mother son relationships. Let's create healthy role models for interacting with women in school, in colleges, and in the workplace. Fortunately, technology has been a great game changer and has helped bridge the gender gap. Today, women can work and network from the safety of their homes. I would like to end with the famous quote: equal rights for others does not mean fewer rights for you. It's not a pie.